Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council regular meeting of the City Council of Perry at 6/16, August 5th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Coffee. Bledsoe.
Here.
Marshall. Here. Davis. Here. Goldar.
Here.
Rupp.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Brown. Here. Worthing.
We have a quorum. Tonight I'd like to ask Nate to do the occasion for us.
Absolutely. Our Father in heaven, we are thankful to be here today and thankful for this wonderful community and all the kind people here. We pray that as we discuss tonight and talk through some of the agenda items, that we can be blessed with wisdom and know what questions to ask to benefit the community. We're thankful for thy Son, and we pray that we can remember him in all we do, and we offer this prayer in his name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Council item number 1 is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
All right, number 4, comments from those assembled pertaining to items on the city agenda. Anybody here? Seeing none. 5, proclamations, commendations, reports, and inquiries by the governing body. Do we have anything that? Any reports for ward? Any ward reports today? I'll just kind of.
Nope.
Anything from your ward?
Yeah, just, I did have somebody call and ask about the alley between Hall Land and the Methodist Church. What the plans were in that. I don't know if you were planning on addressing that in your comments or not, or if you got anything to that?
I can just answer it right now. So I actually went out with Mayor this week. We looked at it because I don't know if they're the pastors of the church or someone who has some interest in that church reached out to us. We had a good visit. Told them the overall plan is to eventually do our own streets. That's still probably at least a year out. And so we did some temporary solutions, which was to fill some of the potholes that were there with coal patch. Yeah, they talked about doing some additional things like putting gravel in there and things, and I was, well, this isn't my expertise. Let me talk to our streets guy about it, and he's like, no, that's not the way to go. In fact, the reason the alley's better than it's ever been is because he pulled out all the old gravel, which just sunk into that clay. So yeah, there is a long-term solution. We are looking at it. It's on our radar. We need the streets equipment to really pull it off. In the meantime, we'll just be using coal patch to patch the potholes.
I will say that I had 2 women approach me about the same thing that were from the church.
Yeah.
But I had brought it up before, so I'm glad that y'all are looking at it and doing something about that.
Yep.
And that's a really big alley that serves a lot of people because of Sonic and because of the grocery store.
Yep.
Anything else over here for ward reports?
I had one question. Had a constituent visit me about the plat changes down by Lions Park, and the fact that we were going to have a person build some homes down there. And the question came up again about Silent City and doing something about the train whistles, and wouldn't that help sell or rent those homes if we did something like that? And so I'd just like to see some kind of a report or something on how that could or couldn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I started reading through some files this week. Larry left a lot of files for me, and some of them are useful. I was looking through the silent one where he has several packets of things this week. nothing to report on specifically about it, but it is on my radar. I do have those past sources, and then I've been in touch with Elliot Edens, who's the one who did that report, the most recent report. So it is on my radar.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Committee reports. We have, I know the zoning hasn't, do anything from the hospital?
I haven't got any emails either.
And was there anything that happened on drainage as far as going looking at the?
Critter is waiting on drainage. He's just waiting for it to cool down a little bit so that you can go do the cement, which is understandable.
All right, number 6, city manager report and updates.
Yeah, absolutely. So I only have one thing this week to talk about. It's been a busy last 2 weeks. But the one thing I did want to bring up for residents to be aware of is, so the subdivision just outside of town, just, what would that be, south of Easy Drill. They're putting in 33, or they have that subdivided into 33 lots right now. The goal is to make some plans with them on how the city's going to provide electric and possibly water and sewer. But I know that those lots are starting to be bought. And just so everybody knows, we do not have a plan in place right now to get electric and water and sewer to those lots. So if you know somebody who's thinking about buying those lots, it's going to be worth telling them, hey, wait until the city has finalized this with the developer, because what could end up happening is people could buy those lots and then the developer could just say, oh, we made a profit off of it, we're not going to do anything else. And then all these residents would be stuck with this lot that they can't afford to get electric and sewer to it. I mean, it'll probably be $1 million to get it out there, which we can work with the developer and say, okay, you can sell those for a higher price and make that, work for you. But if it's just a bunch of individual lots, it's not going to work. So you may let people know who are looking at buying that they want to wait till we have that agreement in place.
And Nate, the location of those lots?
Yeah, it's called the Stonehill Edition. There's a sign, and it's just south of Easy Drill, between Easy Drill and CCC Lake. It's that new county development.
Before you go to Evil.
Yeah.
Yep. So I know he told me on the phone today, and I'm not saying that they're not going to do it. I'm just saying, just to be safe, you probably want to wait until it's in place and sign before you pull the trigger and buy some land out there.
I think you have one more update if you don't mind. I think you have a new addition to the family.
We do, yeah. Clark Cecil Reed was born on the 25th. Yeah, Cecil came from, that's my wife's mom's maiden name. Her whole family actually died in a car crash when she was 15, so we're kind of taking that legacy on. And he's been fun. He's been very sleepy. And Grant is adjusting really well. He wants to sleep on the couch every night, but other than that, things are good.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Any questions for Nate? Number 7, Chief Financial Officer remarks and monthly invoice.
All right, so we are still working through audit. We've actually started planning on our 24 audit, so you'll start seeing some of that come through. On our invoice, you'll see that we've done not only just the monthly work, but there were several things we put as far as the 911 agreement, some economic development items, and utility rates, and some council sessions with you all on budget and things. So continuing to move forward with our new budget, new financials coming out. Yeah, so it's a fun time right now. Everything is like clean slate, and so anything that pops up we can really dig into, which is fun. So.
We'll move on to number 8, presentation of city attorney report and monthly invoice.
This month was a lot of work. I worked on a number of the items that are on your agenda tonight, including the rodeo arena and bring together the professionals to review that, helping to facilitate. If you read Nate's Friday report, you know that the Malzahn Affiliated Fund approved the Cottage Addition grant. And so on your next meeting, we will have that project there. I have been speaking and meeting with the principal of that, and he will, if you approve it, and what's great about it, other than some miscellaneous electric that we'll need to do, the costs of that, the public cost of that will all be borne by this grant, and the payment will be made after the certificate of occupancy on the homes are issued. So it's about as secure an agreement as we can get. So that's up to 28 cottage homes at the former elementary school site. 2 Board of Adjustment meetings we're having. One of them is on the Seth Wadley sign application. We had our first Historic Preservation Commission meeting, and I did a bunch of work for that, including examples of design criteria, and I produced some bylaws for the Historic Preservation Commission, which were approved. Did a series of, and I attended that meeting. I attended a planning commission meeting too. And I amended a bunch of the ordinances, one of which is on your agenda tonight. We also are getting real close, I would think, to being able to put forward the E911 agreement. We're still doing final touches to that, but I'm very pleased with the way that looks, and we are wanting to get that in place as soon as possible. Did some combination documents. With respect to Nabholz, I did tax exempt letter to the CT scan that we're doing, tax exempt letter to all the subcontractors. We approved that Nabholz amendment, and we've had a series of meetings. I've had a series of calls and some meetings on the hospital financing. You know, Bank First is kind of wondering why isn't something started. They finally woke up, but you know, we haven't drawn on very much money, and you know, it's a giant loan out there, so where is that going to be? So we had a Zoom call where we all talked about exactly where that was, the fact that it's going to be a 16-month project, and the fact that that we've got that guaranteed maximum price. The other interest is, what are you going to do with the savings? You know, I mean, what, the one city that has a savings on a public construction project of close to $10 million? That's unheard of. I mean, most folks, you get a doubling of whatever it is, but because of the way you did it through this contractor management agreement, we were able to keep that price nailed down. And so there's interest on, you know, what we're going to do. We've talked about that, whether we would put a roof on it or add an additional chiller or HVAC or whatever. That may come to you. You know, my answer to it is it's about enough money to cover change orders, if there's change orders in the project, because you can only do 10% or 10% of the amount issued. And so that's kind of what, you know, I help with some agendas for council meetings, Board of Adjustment meetings, planning committee meetings. So very busy this month. Any questions?
Number 9, consider approval of amendments to the Perry Purchasing Manual concerning amending section 1.1 concerning its applicability to the Perry Municipal Authority, in section 1.4.a, increasing the maximum purchasing authorization for the city manager, amending section 2.4.d, making an exception to the 3-bid requirement for open market purchases, amending section 9, increasing the maximum purchasing authorization for purchasing officers and making provisions consistent with the previous amendment, amending section 12.2, providing for site auctions and disposition of surplus property, resignation of the city council. So, turn this over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this comes because of an efficiency issue. Really, we looked at the numbers of what we wanted an increase, a recommended increase to, and we looked at Blackwell and some other surrounding cities. Their city manager has a $50,000 limit, and their department directors were, oh shoot, I'm blinking. How much were? 15. Yeah, 15,000. And that's just because the price of everything has increased so much over time that it's hard to buy anything now in bulk, which is the way we want to buy it to save money, without exceeding that $15,000. Now, as far as mine, the $50,000, I think I've come to maybe 3 times to go above that. I don't really care. I'm happy to do that. But for the department directors, I would ask that we increase it to 15 because they're buying things like fuel and our water treatment plant has to do a bunch of stuff continuously, and it's almost always going over that 15 mark. Now, these are things that you've approved in the operational budget, so it's things that you've already touched and looked at. But it's just hard to have our department directors bring the invoice down to the office, them code it and everything, and then I sign it. It's just an efficiency issue. So that's the reason for those recommendations is in terms of the purchasing increases. There's a couple of others in there just to make selling surplus a little bit easier. We do have a lot of surplus items that we'd like to get rid of, and the most efficient and highest price way is always the best. So, any questions on? I know that there might have been some questions on that, which I'm happy to answer.
What is the purchasing officer's, what's the amount right now? 70? Is it 70?
7,500.
75, okay.
Yeah. For the department directors.
Right.
Yeah.
And the amount for Nate is 30. In looking at the first page, if you have that, the 1.1, I just wanted to introduce some language, because this is applicable to us and to the municipal authority, to all the authorities. I wanted to make sure that, with respect to the Prairie Municipal Authority, that if you're talking about city council, you're talking about board of trustees, if you're talking about the city manager, you're talking about trust manager, because, we haven't provided for two managers for each thing, just one manual for each. So that's just a clarification. The second thing is that 50,000. Even if you don't want to set it at 50,000, it's currently at 30,000. I would keep the language. The language is good. Actually, where we have the $30,000 language is in another part, which isn't cited here. But it's, to me, much better to put it right up at the front in one of the first pages, city manager, how much authority do they have? And that's where we put that. And of course, we added the language that there have to be sufficient unencumbered funds to be used. All notice and bidding requirements must be followed unless exempted. So all that's good language and needs to be in there. It's just, if you don't want to change it, you should make that 30,000. On the next page, sometimes we take bids. There's a requirement on both written and oral bids to get 3 quotes. Sometimes we can't get 3 quotes. The way it is now, some people are so busy they won't quote. And so we just asking people to come in, they don't come in, it gets put off. And so there are the times if there's a determination we can't get quotes, we can only get 1 quote. We don't want to be stuck to keep asking to get 3 quotes. We will bring you prices that are right. Okay, this provides a little exemption from that, where the manager can exempt that requirement. And then you've got this little change that 7,500 doesn't need to be there. This 1,500 or 15,000. That's tied to all purchasing officers, and that's currently 7,500. And then, see where the language is 50,000 or 30,000. This is just authorized to approve invoices, and I wanted it more specific. Right in the front is the authority. Now the red. Does everyone have the red? The red are Eric's changes, which are excellent. And we want to accept, at least we feel, management, we want to accept them in whole because we felt they were really good changes. Well, what is the purpose of the ones we added? Well, one is to permit silent auctions, but the last one, very important, is from time to time you'll have surplus items and they fit into any of these categories. You want to do something else with the item, rather than sell it, silent auction. It may be donated. To another fire department, because we get things from other fire departments, kind of a little mutual aid agreement or something. And so we wanted something there. Majority of the governing body, you guys can designate what that surplus item can go for, and then the manager will carry that out. So that's really the purpose of this amendment.
I guess I have a question back on the, talking about dealing away with the 3 bids. How, mandatory, I guess that's solicit 3 bids and you're asking to waive that. What does that do against the state statute? I mean, how does-
This does not, we have no statute on this issue. The state statute that we have to follow is the Public Competitive Bid Act, okay, of 1974. We're not asking for any waiver. We have to follow the act. Any other rules that we have about bidding, we impose those on ourselves by ordinance. So that's what we're asking. We're asking for an amendment to our own procedure. But nothing in the state act is going to be, because you can't amend it, you have to follow it.
Meredith, as a financial person, what is the maximum purchasing authority authorization for other towns our size for the city manager and the purchasing officers?
Like Nate said, when this was first circulated, it was Blackwell that we went to first, and Blackwell is at these limits right now, the 50,000. Blackwell is at these limits, 50,000 for the city manager and 50,000 for the department heads. So your policy right now is consistent with your peers that are local.
And do you have any other cities that are about the size?
Yes.
What are
Yes.
theirs?
They all kind of range, some are still around that 30. I don't have anyone that's over 50 for the city manager position. And department heads is usually somewhere around that 20, 25. So it kind of just depends. I think the good thing that you've got, Gloria, is this policy still requires you to follow your budget, has to be in budget. And you're going to also see that on your check register each month. So you will see those purchases. You'll be able to pull invoices. You'll be able to see those. So it's not like there's going to be anything that's not transparent.
Randy attended a meeting day put on by David Weatherford. And as soon as you can do this, you need to have Weatherford and Bill Tackett here and make their presentation about how government should run around the table. And they do this whole 2-hour pitch on how you, the government, need to authorize the manager to do it. And keep that off your plate. The things that you need to be dealing with are the future. And, what are we going to do, and listening to the public. And that it's really a good pitch that Meredith and I were able to do for O'Keene. And based on that, that's a town of 1,000. They raised theirs from 5 to 20 or 30.
30.
Yeah, 30,000.
They went
That was
to 30.
just at the last meeting. But they did it after hearing this presentation from David Weatherford and Bill Tackett about the pitch. I really think it'd be a great presentation for the council to get, to hear that perspective.
Realigns your priorities.
Huh?
It realigns your priorities.
It realigns priorities, and it realigns the agenda too. So, anyway, but
With the purchasing officers, do they report to you before they spend money? Do they go over those things with you, or do they just make the decision on their own?
Yeah, so like Meredith indicated, they have to stay within a budget. So they have specific items that they're buying that are budgeted. If they're gonna buy something outside of that budget, they have a certain amount of discretion up to their limit, but they're still held accountable and responsible, right? We still review those transactions, and if I see that the spending is nonsensical, I would absolutely talk to them.
And they're still bound by the policies that we've, like you've said, Joe, that we've reigned on ourselves. The notice policies, the bidding policies, and the like. One of which we tried to ease here because we sometimes just can't seem to get enough bids. So.
Gloria, I just want to make one other point on what you were saying as far as the department heads. I like efficiencies. I'm big on efficiencies. Let's do things. Unlike Bryce, who just likes to talk, I like to speak with efficiency. But I also think that we want our department heads to work with efficiency as well. And so when they are having to take the administrative time to come to Nate, Nate signs off on purchases that are over their limit, it takes department head time to get to the city office, it takes Nate time to sign off on it, then it has to go back, then they can finally purchase it. Empowering those department heads to make those decisions at a $15,000 level, I think you'll see some efficiencies in the time that Nate has to do his job and department heads have to do theirs.
Yeah, so one example of that is Terrence comes to me, every month or so and brings an invoice for gas. And this invoice is gas that he's buying in bulk and then reselling, right, to the people for their planes. It's like, why am I having to approve this? Like, we're making money on this. There's no reason that we should have to approve this every single month. Him doing it and then me doing it and then get into it. And it's just, there are things that are good that I approve, and those would be things outside of the scope of the budget, which my department directors are fantastic in coming to me and saying, hey, we didn't budget for this, but it's an emergency, right? But we're just trying to get rid of the processes for those things that are just like, why are we approving this? You're selling it, you're making money on it.
The question that Bryce was talking about was one of the examples they used is that a city council should be like a board of directors. They should set the direction, they should set the boundaries, but they should not be talking about what kind of motor oil you're using in the pickup trucks. You should hire people that understand that, and you should hold them accountable to go do it and give them the authority to get it done. And I think this is a step in that right direction.
I don't know if it makes sense, but sometimes I think some hesitation with the increasing those values are the cost of, I just had it on the tip of my tongue and I lost it. The cost of convenience. What is the cost of that, what is going to be the cost of that convenience to have those limits higher and to keep the accountability in check with those. And I'm not saying that the department heads are doing anything out of line or not, and they're all been real thrifty on trying to keep to their budgets and doing well. But what is the checks and balances to make sure that stays the case?
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, Meredith, do you want to speak to that? Because the budget itself, right? And their approval
There's no
process.
change in the
Well,
checks and balances
I
that
get that.
happen as
I
far
get
as,
that.
they still have budget compliance. You all still see the purchases. It simply allows for them a freedom of getting their job done without the overhead. Redundancy, excellent word.
Well, unlike the past, Nate meets with every one of these people at least twice a month, right?
Weekly, yeah.
Yeah, weekly. So I would say that's probably, I haven't
Even
seen
more
any of
oversight.
that,
Yeah.
but he's meeting with his department heads, which is something that the council has asked. He's meeting with, according to a schedule, all day long. So I'm sure that a $15,000 expenditure would pop up, right, in a conversation?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
And they'll approach me outside of those meetings oftentimes too and say, hey, this just popped up, what do you want me to do? Before they spend, it's funny, I'll have to tell them sometimes, hey, you remember your limits, 7,500 right now, because they're just so careful with things, so they're great. Great.
I don't want to colorize it, but maybe just if this does go through, to maybe make it easier on that register that you mentioned, how hard it would be to maybe bold the items that hit this for a while, for a
We
period
could
of
have
time.
Nita highlight those that were over 15,000.
I don't necessarily want to print everyone in color, but if we bold it or, something like that.
It would be helpful.
Just so the council can see that, at least for a period of time, we can easily see that when we're looking at it.
Yeah, that could be kind of good for you to see, like, oh yeah, this is the results of our decision and what would have been versus what actually is. It's a good.
And so I guess kind of along the lines of Joe's question is that those regular scheduled meetings you have with the department's heads, you're reviewing and discussing where they are in their budget.
We will do that occasionally. I get their monthly budget expenditures. Since I'm meeting with them more frequently, we don't go over that every week, but I do review their budget expenditures monthly. And then if they're gonna purchase something, yeah, they'll come to me.
Because at work, if I'm over budget, they can just tell me to cut back, but I'm not providing water or sewer for people that need that. And so it's a lot harder to tell somebody you've got to dramatically cut back after the fact.
Right.
I'd rather
Yeah.
proactive.
Yeah, the good news is, I mean, we have to stay within that number at the department level, right? So anytime we were to go outside of that, we'd have to come before you, right, and say, hey, we're not gonna be able to stick to this number, and here's why, so you'd see that. If we're, making changes within the department level, we can say, oh, we budgeted 2,000 here, priorities have changed, let's put that actually here within that same department. But yeah, the oversight side, you guys, anything outside of the department, you would see.
Well, I can tell you, reading through this ahead of time, it was refreshing to me because I see how much stuff has gone up. I think this is an important step for accountability and ownership of the departments. I would like to move that we accept it as written.
Second.
Motion second. Any more?
Or should I have said the written?
Oh, no. You said it, okay.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank you. Unless you didn't want the red one.
No, I did.
Yes, I wouldn't say.
There's a handout. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Lissa?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Number 10, receive recommendation from Perry Planning Commission concerning ordinance number 2024-12, concerning the creation of a Perry Family Friendly District, the adoptions of the sexually oriented business ordinance, and certain amendments to C2 General Commercial District and C4 Planned Commercial District related to the application of the sexually oriented businesses ordinance. So,
Yeah, so this one's been a long time in coming. I bet if you did read it beforehand, you had a good time reading it.
and it was recommended.
Yeah, it was recommended with the limit of $1,000 for those types of businesses in terms of fee, and that's an annual fee, right, Bryce?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the idea is to control where we put certain businesses in town, right? That's the whole purpose behind this.
And the district is the same as the current marijuana ordinance that we have in place.
Some consistency there.
That is from 8th Street, Bird.
Ooh, someone with more knowledge of Perry might be
The alley
So-
north
You
of
can
her,
do it.
right?
Yeah, it's actually the alley north of Fern.
Up 8th Street.
Behind Candy's.
Yes,
Yeah.
all the way to the railroad tracks. And if you follow the railroad tracks, all the way down to the YMCA basically, and back up to 8th. It's basically, there's Perry Pharmacy
Yeah.
is also included, just the link.
Yeah.
And that's just to match the same district that Maine's covers.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, there were only 2 businesses mentioned that I didn't recognize.
So do we know
Progressive.
that, does this affect any current businesses?
No.
Do what?
This is affecting any current businesses?
And as a matter of fact, if there were current businesses, it'd be grandfathered.
Yeah, to tell you, if you look at the ordinance, there's you already have an ordinance that I believe was passed in the year 2000. And that was location of adult novelty shops. And we ban those, I believe it was in the downtown area. Well, you don't need that now because, things have evolved so nicely in the sexual orientation businesses. Just Priscilla's, that's small potatoes, you read everything else that's here. And, we're trying to take a larger scope with respect to all of it. Not banned in the community, because they have the First Amendment right to have that business, but we have to say where it is and then to have a reasonable fee or business license on it. just like we do on marijuana contracts. You know, we haven't placed a large number of fees on a business license fee, but we could. And many cities do have a whole list of business licenses and fees associated with that, and that's part of how they fund their general fund. And we could do that, and we just never have.
And that was the one recommendation planning changed, was changing
That's
that from
correct.
500 to 1,000. Or, sorry, from
I think
250 to 1,000.
250 to 1,000.
So, that was just to receive that, so I'll go ahead and we can have a discussion probably on item 11. I guess these last two will warm me up for this one. But consider approval of ordinance number 2024-12 of the City Council, of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, by the amendment of Article 2, Division 2 of Chapter 12 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the addition of new section 12-214 entitled Perry Family Friendly District. By the amendment of Article 2 of Chapter 12 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the addition of new Division 3A entitled Sexually Orientated Businesses. Providing for Section 12-235 entitled Definition. Providing for Section 12-236 entitled Additional Operator License Requirements. Providing for Section 12-327 entitled Licensing Fees. Providing for Section 12-238 entitled Operating Rules and Regulations. Providing for Section 12-239 entitled Exemptions. By the amendment of Article 2, Division 5 of Chapter 12 of Perry Municipal Code 2022, by the amendment of Section 12-282, subsection B.7, providing for that sexually oriented businesses are permitted use, subject to the use by review hearing and approval in a C2 general commercial district, but not in the Perry Family Friendly District or in certain other locations. By the amendment of Article 2, Division 5 of Chapter 12 of the Perry Municipal Code 2022, by the amendment of Section 12-284, subsection E, providing that sexually oriented businesses are a permitted use subject to the use by review hearing and approval in a C4 planned commercial district, but not in the Perry Family Friendly District, or in certain other locations, providing for repealer, savings, codification, severability, penalty, renumbering, and declaring an emergency. Let me say that again. I think I need glasses after that. Okay, so this is actual ordinance and approving it.
I have questions. I have lots of questions. Let's see. Do we currently have an application for a sexually oriented business?
I haven't created it yet. Only if this passes will I'll create that.
So what do we do currently? If somebody wanted to?
They would be able to locate here.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, but they don't have to fill out any application, they just have to pay the $250.
They don't have to pay anything. You mean currently, if we didn't have this ordinance,
Yeah.
they would just open their business in a proper zone, and it's not prohibited anywhere, so it'd be a commercial,
Okay, so
it'd be a
there's no-
commercial zone, and they would open their business.
Yeah, we don't have any kind of business license fees right now,
Okay.
except for with specific things like marijuana.
Okay. Second question. You stated that if you are a business that you normally, like a convenience store or whatever, that's your main thing. But if you happen to bring in movies or whatever, that makes you a sexually oriented business.
To the extent that are sexually oriented, yes.
Okay. So.
Like if they sold movies?
Sold or rented. Yeah, we're trying to keep, now, I mean, remember, there are, although they'd have to pay the fee, there are locations where it's going to be permitted. In fact, like this last part, those two districts, it's permitted in those districts except within the Perry Friendly Family District, or if you're within a church or a school.
Right.
some of those other exceptions.
Okay, so, I'm gonna turn red here. It has specified sexual activities means any of the following, and number one, you can read that.
Do you mind telling us page?
It's page 6. It lists out what sexual activities are. And then there's also a part where it's on page 4, where books, magazines, periodicals, or other printed matter or photographs, films, motion pictures, blah, blah, blah. And it says is characterized by the depiction or description of specified sexual activities, which of course is on page 6, which on number 1, that would include any romance novel that would be in the library or in the school library. There is, I mean, it's not pictures, but it's words. I mean, any R-rated movie is gonna have that. But I mean,
Yeah, it is difficult to legislate morality.
I-
I mean, that's really the answer to your question. This is as close, first of all, if it's obscene, it's not permitted. But obscenity is based on a series of decisions by the United States Supreme Court. And it's been confined to a very, very narrow pocket of things. I would think that, any kind of film it has to have no redeeming social value. It has to be, a sexual act with no social redeeming value, and it's set on based the standards in the community. That's one of the things that we're trying to do here, is kind of set a community standard. But it is difficult to draft these documents because it's less than obscene, more than HBO, or even Cinemax. This is the language that is carried in many of these ordinances. I did not come up with it. I mean, it's not original with me, but and I can't tell you, because this came from Pocket City, I can't tell you that the language has been tested in court, okay? But it's sufficiently specific enough that you know what it is. We're certainly not going to, by way of this, ban library books. That is not the purpose of this.
Right.
And so, enforcement, actual enforcement will have to be, looked at too, but it's difficult to define. And this is defined to the degree of language and art that I think is permissible and doesn't violate the First Amendment or the right of the business owner. But I can't disagree with what you're saying. I've seen some movies on HBO that you could clearly say come within
So
some.
that's why I guess my follow-up question,
Library should be affected, isn't it, a grandfather?
because I didn't even think about it until Annette brought it up. I mean, I can look at this beauty, this is strictly commerce and business. But if there is a negative effect that this might have on the library, I would love to have some language in it so that the library is exempt or something.
well, and that might fall under the exceptions where it has anything that is funded by state, like
Right,
colleges.
okay.
It's
It does
specific-
says library.
Any public library.
Yeah, okay.
But that would be like one of the convenience stores or the truck stop had romance novels or movies that they sell, or are they gonna
They're on
have
the
to?
CG.
Well, the good news about the truck stop
Do
is
they
it's
have to
outside.
pay the $1,000? Well, now they'd be grandfathered, so they wouldn't have to pay the
Well, and they're
$1,000.
outside the family
Outside
friendly
of the
district.
family-friendly.
But they would still have to pay
They
for a
used to,
license.
they used to have that, but since streaming services came, I mean, that destroyed
They don't
the whole
allow
adult
video.
bookstores and all the adult video. That destroyed all that. But to say, if somebody did, then in my opinion, you know, if they were selling XXX videos, you know, at the, Priscilla's or at the truck stop, yeah, they would be regulated.
Would they still have to pay
Yes.
the fee
Yeah.
even though their business is already there?
We would
before?
we would consider that this is a new law. This isn't just for folks that are, I mean, I don't know anybody that is currently doing this
Right.
in the community. You don't have any in the community. So if the fact that you had a business there that wasn't doing it, then
Wasn't doing
there's
it
no
before, but then
grandfather
wanted to
because,
do it.
because it wasn't lawful. They weren't doing it at a time that it was lawful. Okay, this ordinance is now put in, it's not lawful to do it unless it's in the proper area and with the payment of the fee.
Yeah, and I think maybe to speak a little bit to that, the purpose of this, although reading it can maybe seem like the idea is for the city to become the morality police. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose and the spirit in which it's written and the way the court cases are actually going right now are, this is prohibitive for the, you know, not the middle, not the ones who are maybe doing a little bit, but the far, the really explicit stuff that we don't want, at least talking with council, we don't want, you know, in the family-friendly district.
And you've had a rule that has banned those kind of shops in your town, I believe, for 24 years. I mean, I remember when we did that, what happened. There was a state law that said you could do it, and immediately I prepared an ordinance that said, what do you think? And we declared that you don't want it downtown, so that's what we did. But this came up through the zoning committee talking about, you know, what else, you know, they don't do, so that's what we did.
And I think it's important, whether it's for tourism or for other reasons, for people to understand that if you're walking in a certain district, that you're just not going to walk up on that kind of activity. And so for this family-friendly district, as I read through this, other than the legitimate concerns you brought up about the library, which still makes me nervous, I felt like this is a very positive regulation. And I travel a lot, you go to different cities, and there are cities that don't have those restrictions.
Right.
And you can be walking right by one of the more good restaurants and walk by something that you would just see your family not walk with you by.
Right.
So I think it's a great step for building the kind of town that we want and keeping it the way we want it.
I agree. I just have questions.
Yeah, they're good things to bring up, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking, I mean, we're talking about First Amendment rights, and I remember reminding the planning commission actually of that idea, right? Because their thought, well, we don't want any of these businesses here. And I said, well, I understand that you feel that way. You know, I feel that way too, personally, but on the other hand, we're protecting the Constitution, which provides a First Amendment right. And so this is our attempt of balancing those two important, but maybe contradicting things.
So on the hotels, the only hotel that is in the family-friendly district is the Iron Horse. Is it in the?
Yep.
Okay, and so I have questions about the 10 hours rule. How do you determine the 10 hours? Is it from when they check in to when they check out, or is it when they check in and leave, but don't check out?
I do, don't quote me on this, but I do think Iron Horse is not actually a hotel or motel. I think it's now, I don't know what you call it, long-term stay, apartments.
Extended stay.
Well,
Extended
I mean,
stay.
it would still go for our hotels anyway, because they would have to purchase a license and all that kind of stuff. But it's the 10 hours that I understand.
You're talking about page 12, number 7, hours of operation.
No, not the hours of operations, it's,
It's on page 5.
Yeah, offers a sleeping room for rent for a
Oh, yeah.
period of time less than 10 hours.
Yeah. Say I'm driving down I-35 and I'm tired, it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I just want to go get some sleep for 6 hours and leave.
Yeah, I would say that that would be a room which is offered for less. Rooms are offered for well, almost 24-hour periods, you know. I mean, you may arrive at 2 in the morning, but, you know, that room was available from
3 p.m.
You're paying for
Okay.
the.
From, yeah, you're paying
Okay.
for the whole thing. This is really setting up a motel, which is,
Right.
you know, no-tell motel. You can
2
rent
hours. I
it
was
for,
thinking-
yeah, you can rent it for 2 hours, you know, I mean, I think that's what the purpose of that is.
Yeah, we're all gonna turn around
No, this-
No, those are good.
I just think I'll be having that couple of
Motel, motel. That was pretty good, Bryce. Well, I'm waiting for a political joke.
last meeting.
Okay, I just, one more question. Say, would this prohibit, like, traveling dance troupes? I don't know what you would call them. Kind of like the Chippendale type dancers or whatever. Would that prevent them from coming into the family-friendly district?
I
Like
don't-
if Axe House or Aces or the other bar wanted to bring in a group show, would that be prevented?
I'm just not familiar with the Chippendale, so maybe
It's a 70s.
You're too young.
I'm like trying to, like, I think I'm following, but there's this like piece of the puzzle missing that's like gaping.
It's like,
in
they're
there.
dancers.
Magic
Magic Mike.
It's similar to
Well,
Magic Mark.
Well, but, or even every year at the Festival of the Arts, the belly dance troupe performs. Would that be outlawed if we wanted to
I
say?
would say call that semi-nudity.
Okay.
It's
That's
nudity or
culture.
semi-nudity, you know,
Chippendale's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids at home don't go that.
Anyway.
heck, you
would
can't
that-
watch the
would that
Olympics
be-
anymore.
That would be covered, right? That they would
Yeah.
not be able to do that downtown.
Yeah, that's,
I would
I
think
think
so.
that's correct. Unless they're already doing it and we don't know about it, in which case they're grandfathered.
I don't think they are. I have no idea.
But
I guess I could say they were. Since none of us know.
It wouldn't seem to me that that's semi-nudity. In defining, I mean, they don't take off they don't expose the genitalia,
No, they don't.
or they're not supposed to.
But I guess in the grander scheme, then what would it hurt if they were outlawed down in the square?
Oh, nothing. I just want to make sure that they know that,
Okay.
That-
You're just going to
that's-
clarify the,
right, that is something that they cannot do any longer
Right.
or if they were approached or whatever.
Or
Do it.
in that district.
In that
They could do it
district,
somewhere else.
they could
with
do it
this
somewhere
pay
else,
the
yeah.
fee and operate business that way.
But not in our family-friendly district.
Well, I've seen people walk out of Dollar General that I thought were $750.
Yeah,
now you are talking about something we can't control.
Yeah.
It would be argued, right? That's when it would come to the point where we said, hey, this is what the ordinance says, and then a case like that would proceed, and if they fought it, then we'd go to court. It would be a really interesting case. I hope we don't have to do it, but I'd love to like watch someone else do it.
And I think to that point, as Bryce said, the wording here has been adopted by other communities.
Yeah.
We don't know that it's been tested in any other community then, so.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
Whole lot better.
And it's a start, it's something we can come back to if we need to.
Yep. Progress over perfection. But yeah, great questions. Any other questions on this one?
No, I'm going to help. Went through all my questions.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-12.
Second.
further questions? Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
And Bryce was nice enough to add us a number for this. Consider enactment of, or assume, somebody was nice enough, you. Consider enactment of emergency clause for ordinance number 2024-12.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, item number 13. Consider approval of a lot split final replat of lot 6-7, block 88, town side of North and West Perry to provide lots 1 through 4. I believe we have, I know we have.
Trey here.
Trey is here, yeah. And I don't know, do we have anybody from the city that wants to talk to you?
Let's hear what Trey has to say.
Okay. Come up, Trey, and introduce yourself and tell us what you have going on here.
Sure. I'm Trey Smith, I work Builders Investment Group. We have a few lots that were on facing Cedar Street at the corner of 13th and Cedar, and we've turned those lots to face 13th, and they 4 lots to build affordable small houses.
So this is right across from Lions Park, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And instead of facing Cedar, they're now facing towards Lions Park. The
Correct.
driveways.
Do you have any, so you've got a couple different sizes that you've done a smaller, you're able to bit bigger at the.
Yes, sir.
And
If
this,
it's okay, I can just pass these around. I
Yeah,
have some
great.
elevations.
In reference to the ones on 11th Street, what, are they gonna be bigger?
They are bigger, yes, sir. These are gonna be right at 900 square foot. They're 25-foot frontage, so a little bit deeper than the 40-foot wide on 11th Street. We have 3 different elevations for the 4 lots, so 2 will share an elevation on the ends, and the other 3 will, or the other 2 will be different.
It'll all be single story.
Yes, sir.
Are all those different, those papers, they're diversions?
Yeah, that's actually, I think, the 2 on the 2 ends of the 4 lots are the same, but there's 3 different elevations. Oh, we're not here, I'm sorry, I should have kept going with class. Because the original application was more hand-drawn, than the actual survey.
Just a resolution.
Face this way instead of this way.
couple of, but I think we have a couple other things we gotta do, but do you know, did you kick off?
We can probably start as soon as this month.
Is this the last, this will be the last thing we have to do, is this right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
the planning commission and council approved the preliminary plat. But however, in order that they can sell these properties, we have to approve this final plat.
Instead of with these.
And the planning commission approved this a couple weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
On the July 25th.
Any questions?
I've got a general question, I guess, of
Yes, sir.
the houses you've already built. Are you happy with the response? Is the take rate less than what you hoped for?
On the cottage houses, absolutely, it's been extraordinary. The larger homes that we've built, the 14 to 1700s would have been a little bit slower, but that they are being taken down. But this style home, this size, it seems to fit very well with the market.
And these are 2-bedroom,
They're 2-bed, 2-bath.
2-bed, 2-bath.
This was just a plan. And is that street that will now be in front of those, is that paved? Because I always thought it was just a
I mean,
driveway for the
it's a
tennis court,
blacktop,
so.
I mean.
It's better
Is
than the
it?
Homeland Alley.
Now you're setting the bar pretty low now.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I can remember, these lots were just grass,
Yeah, I know.
so be nice to.
Yeah, this would be great.
Motion to approve the lot split.
Second.
Roll call when you're ready.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 14, consider application for site plan review filed by Richard Crowe regarding parcels number 3 and number 5, and Nate Reed, city manager, City of Perry, regarding parcel number 4, with all parcels located in the Perry Industrial Park. Receive a recommendation on site plan review from the Perry Plan Commission.
Yeah, so let me stand up and speak to this first. We've worked really hard over the last several months. In fact, one of my first meetings here in Perry was discussing this economic development agreement with the Crows. You guys tasked me with chasing this down, which I've tried to do my best. And I think we've finally arrived at a place where both parties are happy and that it's going to be beneficial to the city as well as to the Crows. And we're really excited with what we have. Planning Commission went and approved this tonight. We held a special meeting to make that happen because the Crows are really anxious to get started, which I think is really good for us. I think one thing that we're wanting in the city are people like them who are excited about projects and want to get moving rather than just buy and hold land or whatever. So anyway, with that, I think we have Alex here. We also have Matt Coe, who did some of the review in terms of the architecture and things like that. So feel free to ask some questions and they can kind of come up and talk about the project.
I don't know, do we have enough of this to go all the way around?
Yeah, I think everybody got one.
Hello, I'm Alex Crowe. We discussed what business plan to bring to the community to benefit both the community and of course the Crows. And we come up with an indoor roping arena, which would be the second largest in the state. We're going to try to bring between 3,000 and 5,000 competitors annually next year is our goal. Is there questions I can answer for you?
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the people who've asked you about the arena so far? It sounded like several states heard from people.
Sure. So there's a gentleman that's over the National Team Roping Organization. I spoke with him last week. He's over almost 50 organizations that do like roping competitions with roping teams, barrel racing, that type of thing. And he wants to host in our indoor arena. He said it's very difficult to find inside arenas. With the community feedback going through the line of Foster's or Sonic, there's people I've never met in the community coming up and saying how excited they are for something to come into town.
So would the entire enclosure be climate controlled?
That would be phase 2. Phase 1, they would not be. Where we
Be open,
installed
right?
several overhead doors so we can have no south breeze.
Do you have an estimate on when you're going to get started?
Well, I would really like to get started. We've been working on this project since March of this year. We finally got the architect, civil engineer stamps, the building stamps, the footing plan stamps. And we'd like to start this week and try to be operational by the end of December of this year.
Told you they're anxious.
No, I appreciate the fact that you guys are in a hurry and anxious, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to bring the rest of us along.
Sure.
Because this is going to end up being done right, because you were willing to be patient with us, and I appreciate it.
So in December, the phase 1 would be the only thing, right? That's operational. Phase
Correct.
1?
Yep. there'll be 2 indoor roping arenas and a concession stand. And we kind of wanted to see how the first year ends up, and if we have an opportunity to bring a very large group that was lost by one of the other arenas in the state to the town, and if we get that, we would be climate controlling this building and possibly building the same exact building next to it. So we could have 4 indoor arenas.
You may have said it, but the planning commission had a meeting and recommended this as well, right?
Yes, tonight, right before this meeting, we did. Yeah, we called a special meeting so that they could approve this and get the Crows moving, pending your approval.
You know, I think we talked about in the past how some cities don't even provide a hearing, public hearing for site plan review. They have it in their ordinances, what you need to have, and the administration goes over that. But that's the way it is in Enid, that's the way it is in Stillwater. And, but here in Perry, it's important to, I think, oftentimes, to hear from the public and to make this a public process. And I think I commented at the zoning hearing, how would you like to have a project rezoned and then have a 5-story apartment built right next to you with no other process, you know? And so we do this, and so we've done a lot of the work in-house. The folks that have been involved are Paul Gunnarsson, he's the one that assisted us with the 100,000 square foot Crow facility, which is located next to this. We brought back Matt Biswell, if you remember Matt, in our fire department. He's life safety certified, and just like the state marshal. And Paul and Matt didn't agree on everything, but they worked it out. These codes are very, very detailed, but about 60% of the arena won't be sprinkled, 40% will be sprinkled. That was one of the giant costs, because that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we're wanting to make sure that safety is protected. Other issues in site plan deal with access, and we have access meted out there. You know, the road that serves it is fur, not real nice. That fur going west, it'd sure be nice if the county, you know, paid that for us. That'd be great. Half of that's, I'm looking at Joe. Half of that is in the city limits, but it really would be nice. And then, of course, we have our industrial road. Just so that you know, that industrial road was traded for the 3 lots that the Crows have bought, just so that you know that. But that's not a asphalt road, although it's a nice road. So we've dealt with access, we've dealt with drainage. In industrial property, you don't need to address landscaping if it's okay with the manager and okay with the zoning officer who is appointed in this case, which is really a combination of Matt Coe and Paul. Parking is not going to be asphalt, it's going to be gravel in there, but they've meted out you know, the required number of parking spots and the like. We don't think that screening is really an issue. This is industrial in zoning. I mean, you know, what it is. Waste disposal, that's normally put the waste behind something. Did we do something in the plans, Vic?
Not for the waste disposal.
Yeah. I mean, you know, once again, it's industrial property. And so they've gone over the issues that are provided here. And I think Matt is here Matt Coe, to discuss his review of of this project. Like they said, this has gone on for months.
Thank you, Al.
Months, with review and re-review and requests and the like. So go ahead, Matt.
So what the planning commission approved tonight was the site plan. And what the site plan is it's a working document for the developer and the city. It kind of laid groundwork out for how does this building fit within its surrounding? How are we serving it with access? How is the circulation around the facility going to be served? How are we going to serve the facility utilities? How are we going to, is there consideration for drainage? Is there any potential adverse effects that we may need to consider? And this is something that has been kicked around in several meetings with not only myself, but Paul Gunderson, with several fire consultants. We had a big focus on life safety for this facility. And that's why we have some architectural plans. That's why 40% of the building is now sprinkled. That's why we are adding hydrants out there. That's why a detailed hydraulic model has been done to determine how much fire flow we can provide to the site. You know, and of course it fits in well. It's in an industrial park on the corner of town. It's a rodeo arena in a state that has the highest horse per capita ratio in the country. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a good thing for Perry. It's going to bring people in. It's going to raise revenue. It's a benefit for the city. You know, that's why we had a lot of people involved to make sure it was done. It was done safely, and it wasn't going to cause adverse impacts to adjoining properties or compromise any public safety. They still have to jump through a few hoops to get a building occupancy permit. Obviously, there's going to be special inspections done throughout construction to make sure that, you know, international building code requirements are followed, fire code requirements are satisfied, plumbing code requirements are satisfied. So there will be special inspections done from the time they break ground to ensure that reinforcement is correct and per the signed and sealed engineering drawings and documents. So yes, this has been a very thorough process to review these plans. You know, typically it's a set of plans and 1 or 2 rounds of comments, but this was a work in progress when it first started. So it took a little bit of back and forth to get it to where it is today. And so now we're at a point where we're ready to move forward and try to bring this project to fruition. Because there's a lot of upside to this project. I don't see much downside.
It sounds like those months were necessary. Those months of work were necessary.
It was, yes.
So what is the action that we either need to take?
To approve the site plan, the planning commission recommended to approve the site plan. That was the only action.
And once the site plan is approved, they could start?
Well, they got to get a building permit. I think the first thing would be footing. They want to dig footings. We have to make sure that there's proper rebar. They've given us engineering plans that are certified, but you know, we want to make sure that footings are correct and all, but they're going to be looking for that pretty quick. So our professionals need to work quickly on this.
Yeah, they have submitted those. Paul Gunderson is looking at them. I'll be meeting with Paul pretty soon to go over that. But as far as the site plan, is it harmonious with the environment and the setting in which it's set? Yes.
And that's what you're approving to recommend, or we recommend approving.
Those inspections, Paul typically comes on a regular schedule, or do we have that worked out for this project?
Yes, it's typically done by the code enforcement officer in the city of Perry, or in some cases where we have a big project that has a lot of moving parts in, it's good to bring in somebody like Paul Gunderson, because he's on the Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission that was implemented several years ago. So, you know, he has a lot of resources at hand when he needs to ask questions about fire, plumbing, electric code. He's right there with people that are industry leaders and writing the rules and regulations in the state to implement, you know, these standards and design requirements for cities and towns all throughout the state.
His schedule will meet the desired plans.
Yeah, he's been really open with his schedule.
Okay.
Well, I would move that we approve the site plan.
Second.
When you're ready.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Item 15, consider approval of payment for engineering and other services to Sunrise Valley Engineering LLC in the total amount of $15,007.
Motion to approve. Second.
When you're ready.
I can type tonight, it's great. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yeah.
Item 16, consider approval of ordinance number 2024-15 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, providing for the amendment of Chapter 11 of Perry Municipal Code 2022 by the addition of a new subsection D to Section 11-306 entitled Duck Blind Regulations, providing that the city manager may make additional rules and regulations to effectively implement the duck blind regulations, providing for repealer, savings, complications, severability, and declaring an emergency. So I believe we have a couple people here to talk about this. Nate, do you want to start, or?
No, they can come on up.
You're the expert. I'm the expert? I was just thinking we need to clarify the zoning out there now after early agenda item.
I don't know what questions you have.
Everybody look, it's just allowing for some changes as we go through the process, right?
The only thing that we really need to establish, after going out with Stephen Paul, the game warden, we reset some new duck blinds, stuff to put in the ordinance, maybe put a 50-foot radius would be their duck blind, what they purchased, anything outside that 50-foot radius would be considered inside of their duck blind and not approved. And then the other thing was a time frame in which you would be in your duck blind. If outside of that time, could somebody else hunt that duck blind? Those are the only two things we really asked, so.
But, you know, as time goes on, there will be other things, I'm sure. And I talked about amending the duck blind ordinance with those things, and I thought, you know, really, I kind of like your meeting today, you know, why not authorize the manager to make reasonable regulations? You guys have implemented, let's let him make those regulations. So that's the way I chose to make this amendment rather than detail out a couple and then come back to next year with 3 more.
So I don't know, you and I talked about this a little bit, I don't know how we would reword this at all, but duck season is a season, and my only concern would be making sure we didn't, let's say we get 10 applications and make a rule change and then get 10 more applications, you know, something like that in between that may cause an issue. This doesn't allow for that at all, but I didn't know if there was if we should allow for that in any way.
Yeah, I think hearing you and I discussed this earlier, and I agree with you. We don't want to do that, right? We want to avoid doing that for a fairness factor. And in fact, we have already talked about that this year. It hasn't, with the changes we made from last year to this year, we saw a decrease in interest, which is something that Patty and I have talked about and said, oh, next year let's make an adjustment, but we're not going to make an adjustment mid-season because that's not fair for people. But yeah, like Bryce said, this gives me the discretion to say, oh, let's make adjustments without you guys having to hear about duck blinds every council meeting.
Although we didn't know about this, so I kind of like to keep up on it.
So if we made changes, we would have to come back to the next meeting because I like that idea of saying something that new regulations would only become effective for the
On the
next
other
season,
seasons, yeah.
for the upcoming season. That way you would know that.
Yeah, it doesn't say that right now. We would have to make an adjustment. I think right now it just leaves it to my discretion on what changes are made and when they're made.
Specifically, I can't remember it, or else I'd say it, but you get an example, and I was like, well, I didn't think about that, because that would be within the season, whatever that, do you recall the example you gave?
You're asking a guy who had a baby last week. I don't remember.
I mean, I think this is a natural next step from the ordinance we passed, which was very high level and somewhat vague. I just want to make it that it's, you know, there's not 5 people that are doing something in mid-season, we tell them, hey, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Beyond saying I won't do that, I don't know what to tell you. I'll keep it consistent. We'll keep it consistent for the season and then make changes based on that, just like we've done. I'm trying to think of another example, but I guess the pool comes to mind, right? Where the pool, major changes, we've made just small adjustments here and there as needed, but major changes, the plan is to say, okay, we've thought about these things all season and we'll make some recommendations for next year. And that's kind of the approach that I like taking on things.
And we still have duck blinds available if anybody's interested. I think your husband was 100.
How did we end up having?
I have 9 applicants right now.
How many actual blinds? We
We have a total of 20. 2 of them are not available. One we're keeping for city employees, and then one we're gonna raffle off at the Ducks Unlimited next weekend.
But that's, how many did we have last year? I mean, that's more.
16.
So that's 4 more.
4 more extras,
Awesome.
yeah. We went out and spent the day on the lake, and I had no idea how big Perry Lake was. I've never been on the lake. I was like, Jesus, it's like I'm at a different lake. It was really pretty, actually, so. And a lot of them are accessible by foot. We have city access, so there's only a couple that you can't access by foot.
If you're willing to get a little bit wet.
Yeah,
Well, they all have
he was a real
waiters.
trooper.
They have waiters there.
Here's something saying that.
How's that?
Anyway. Any other questions?
I would move that we approve ordinance number 2024-15.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
17, consider enactment of emergency clause for ordinance number 2024-15.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Item 18, consider approval of agreement for school resource officer services with Perry Independent School District Number 1 for school year 2024 through 2025. In my understanding, this is basically renewing it as it was last year, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
Anything else you'd like to input?
No, it's a great agreement. It's good for the city, it's good for the school.
So the legislators appropriated the same amount for schools this year as it did last year.
3 years in a row. This is the second year.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement for the school resource officer for Perry Independent School District Number 1 for next year.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yeah.
All right, item 19 and 20, I think we got some news that we don't have final inspection on those. Do I need to read those in to table them, or?
Do we have to read them in to table them, or can we just table them?
No, you can
pending
table
final
them if you want to table.
So they haven't inspected yet. They're gonna inspect on the 12th. Vernon said he thinks it's a good idea to wait until the final inspection's done before we make these payments, which I think is wise.
So in that case, it'll come back to us on our next meeting. I will say, on 20, Nate does have some very good news for us. He was able to cut that number down, so when we get it back, that number will be less on the next one, so.
I didn't know this. Matt just told me we actually have 5% of the total job retained in case there were issues, which is built into the initial contract. So if we want to approve these, we could still, it wouldn't hurt because then we still have that money set aside if there is something wrong.
But it's not a detriment to wait, is it?
Well, we have a 271 form that sometimes takes a while for the state to process those, and we have some money out there. So it would just expedite us getting reimbursed. You could also approve contingent on completion of the final inspection and make sure that all punch list items were, if you wanted to go ahead and move forward, or it could be tabled as well too.
I mean, it just gives them their money sooner, which I think businesses are always happy to get their.
Let me read in 19 and let council make a decision. At this point, all right. Consider approval of application for payment number 2 with Lone Hickory Cattle LLC on the water system improvement DWSRF project number 940-102-1206-2 in the amount of $332,808.31. Now we can talk about it. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah, so council, up to you. I think they were really great to work with. If we can get them their money sooner, I was against that initially because obviously before the final inspection, but knowing we're holding on to 5% eliminates that fear. So I would recommend that you approve that right away.
We approve it pending
Final inspection?
final
Yeah.
inspection.
Which would let us pay them on the 12th as long as those ticket items were punched.
I'll make a motion that we approve payment pending. Contingent upon,
Approval of final
approval of
inspection.
final inspection.
Second.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right. So we'll get the good news here. Number 20, consider approval of change order number 1 with Lone Hickory Cattle LLC on the water system improvement DWSRF project number 940-102-1206-02 in the amount of $19,803.88 and appropriate sufficient monies for the change order and identify the funding source. So they went to the table for us and did some negotiation. I'll let them talk about that.
Yeah, so if you look at your, you look down on page, let me find it.
That's changed.
Oh.
Yeah, the change order.
Sorry.
It's written with a pen on it.
I wrote it
I was like,
earlier.
it's not on mine.
Sorry.
So it's page 104 of the packet or page, that's all I got, 104, item 20. A couple of pages down from item 20, there's a change order 1, attachment 8. So you can see at the bottom of that, there's, well, that whole list, I guess, kind of goes back and forth on, you know, we did extra piping, or we ended up doing extra piping for the project, or they removed the valve box, or they did an extra insertion valve, so they're adding up, which is what the change order is, right? But that very bottom item, additional railroad permit costs, talking with Matt and Vernon and Will, it seemed like those costs weren't very well anticipated, as they should have been. And so I asked Matt to go to bat for us and talk to Lone Hickory and tell them we'd meet them halfway on that, which they were amenable to. So it changed that total change order of $34,000 down to the $19,000 number that Derek said.
Excellent.
This one will be also contingent upon inspection.
You could do that way, yeah. That wouldn't be an issue.
Motion to approve payment of change order number 1 in the amount of $19,803.88, contingent upon approval of inspection.
Second.
Roll call, please.
And Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Worthing. No, sorry. I was just kidding.
And thank you, Nate,
Yes,
Matt.
I'm here.
All right. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's what you hired us for, right?
Yep.
Okay, oh yeah, okay. I circled this, I didn't remember why I circled it. Oh no. Consider approval resolution number 2024-06 of the City Council of the City of Perry, Oklahoma, casting a vote for trustee of Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund to fill the expiring term of at-large trustee representing the entire membership. So times we get to vote on our representation, and so we had a list here. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look through the names there with their backgrounds. I believe Nate has met one of these.
Yeah, I met Robert Johnston. I met him at the last conference. You know, we didn't talk extensively, but seemed like a good guy, well experienced in the field, and offered to help, which I think is always a good sign. I don't know if Meredith has any insights because he's in Clinton.
He is in Frederick. He was in Frederick before that for many years. He's a good guy. Very good guy.
Good, good.
Iconic in municipal government.
Others,
So that's a positive endorsement.
Yes.
2 positive endorsements.
Well, that's what I was looking for, because I have no opinion.
yeah.
I was waiting for Bryce to come on.
Well, there's not many city managers that ever asked me to be their friend on Facebook. Robert Johnson did, so, no, he's a super guy. And there was at a time when the word was that he was gonna apply for this job. And, I mean, this is a number of years ago, but he was very interested in coming to Perry, and there were people interested in having him look. This is a number of years ago, but,
Before he was born.
huh?
Yeah, he's kind of the polar opposite of me.
So say you want
He's
to put a
white-haired.
position now, or?
I know.
And old, very experienced. I was waiting for Bryce to come on and say, "I'm Robert Johnston and I approve message." As your political document.
That's right.
Well, can I go ahead and move that we recommend Robert Johnston as our vote for?
He was my city manager when I was in Frederick back in the 90s as a police officer. He's a great guy.
Good. That's 3 recommendations. That's got to be. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah, I think you got one down, right? Second? All right.
Lori.
Roll call when you're ready.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And Brown.
All right. Item number 22, consider approval of tourism development contract with the Perry Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, so let me give you some background on this. We recently approved a contract with the chamber for the amount of $5,000 versus the $20,000 that we'd previously given them. There's been a lot of confusion about why that happened. I've talked to some of you individually. Ultimately, it was really 2 reasons: budgetary constraints and performance-based cuts. And part of those performance-based cuts were looking at these 7 items that we asked them to do for our contract. I met with their board not too long ago, and they asked the question, well, if you're cutting our funding 3 quarters, does it make sense to have us do all these things? And I said, no, I don't think it does. Why would we pay you less and still expect the same result? And so I went through and identified what I thought the council was most eager to have them do, which is number 1, plan and promote and advertise and mark special events such as the Cherokee Strip Celebration and Springfest Hops Car and Motorcycle Show. Looking at the other 6 items, there really wasn't anything that I thought they're not going to do anyways. Like some of those things were like maintain their website. It's like, why are we paying them to maintain their websites? It's their job, and it's to their benefit to do that because they get dues from all the businesses. So anyway, looking at those, I made the recommendation that we just keep number 1 and pay $5,000. In talking with Derek a little bit earlier, we realized that keeping number 7, which would be having them come in and do quarterly reports about those 2 celebrations or other celebrations that they're events that they're putting on, would maybe be helpful as well in maintaining kind of an open communication with them to help maybe get back up to that 20,000 as they add additional things, additional benefits for the city. So my recommendation is to adjust the contract with them and require them to do number 1 and number 7, which is, the celebration of the Springfest, and then also to come in quarterly and give reports to council.
Council, any questions?
I think you may have answered my question about, I had a question about taking away all those other items, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but like you said, that is, kind of clarified the role of, updating their website. I do question though, maybe some of the plan to promote Perry as a designated tourism location. I mean, that is kind of one of the maybe one of the a plan of improvement items. And then work with the city of Perry to assist in business interest and relocations. I mean, I kind of feel like that's an important thing that to keep focus on, whether that's something that they want to take on and keep that as their I'm going to lose words here. Plan of improvement, just add that to their plan of improvement. I think those are probably the two main things on there, that the other ones there would kind of come along with those two areas to improve on with what I think has been discussed in the past.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are really important things that a chamber should do. I think my only concern with having them as written right now is there's not a great way to measure how effective they're being at doing those things. And that's what I actually read through each one of the things with their board. I'm like, that sounds so good, but how are you doing that? How are we measuring that you're doing that, right? So Joe, I think they're open to anything. We could leave some of these on here. They weren't as against taking stuff off as I was, because I didn't feel like that's fair to have the expectation here when we're decreasing funding to here, right? We could definitely keep those on, or we could consider adding them next year, with maybe a more specific plan of, if you implement, these three things or whatever, then we'll give you funding.
What we're requiring of the chamber for the money that we give them does not limit them from doing their job to benefit the businesses of all of Perry, not just downtown.
That's correct.
They have the whole city, and they're to promote those businesses and promote bringing in more businesses. And that is their job as a chamber, which they're not employed by us to do.
That's
So
correct, yeah, and they're largely
those-
self-funded, as I've told us.
We are helping fund those things that are downtown, that are bringing in things. And then, I do think we do need to require the performance report that we required for the past few years that haven't been given us.
Sorry.
Well, I just think that with the conversations that have taken place with this contract, that I think both sides are in agreement that something needs to change. Well, what that is at this particular point is yet to know how the change is going to take place. But I think one of the things in this, the number 7, and with the communication and with the quarterly reports, maybe even monthly report, especially in the months that are busy or that have a lot going on, will help in the pursuit of those the better plan, I guess.
So hi, I'm Kristen Hughes. I'm Vice Chair of the Chamber of Commerce. We have several board members here. So first of all, I think we just wanted to be a part of this discussion, convey the value that we see in the city's partnership, and we want to continue to grow that. And then also we just wanted to be here to answer any questions and help move this partnership forward. So I think you all are, well, I think we're very much on the same page in the sense of we want to continue to first serve our members. That's our membership, our members that are, to Glory's point, across the entire city of Perry. And so how do we serve them? How do we develop the community, develop their businesses, and all the things that come with being part of the chamber? But I think a huge part of that is also advocating for Perry and bringing people into Perry and all those sorts of things. And so a lot of what's in here is we're going to continue to do it because it's the chamber's job and we want to be good at our job. But I do think the conversation that we had with Nate was to convey, the only thing that really changed in the contract was the amount, and then obviously presenting more. And we wanted to make sure that we were all aligned in the sense of we're providing a service. It's gone, decreased by 3/4, and we just want to make sure that we're all clear on that expectation. We're going to continue to follow through on a lot of these. Some of these, like the chamber guide, the maps that we provide to new residences, to all businesses, all those types of things are things that we're going to continue to do. But I think it's finding ways to be more open and set the expectation with council.
I did notice recently that there were some maps and things that have been distributed out to I-35, and I was really glad to see those.
Yes.
In those businesses, and I think that's really important to try to bring people out there into town.
Yes.
And have something else and something more.
And I think naturally a chamber's office kind of serves as a visitor's center. So I think we are well served to do that for Perry, and we want to continue to do that. So that's, like I mentioned, the guides and the maps, and then just listing and advertising for all the businesses in the community. Those are things that we're going to continue to do. Like we've talked about little things like out at BMAC, putting out fans that list all the restaurants and all the businesses that are open during those tournaments, trying to capture those people that are in Perry and pushing them into town. Those are things that really only the chamber, or in my opinion, the chamber is best suited to do. So that's something that we want to continue to do, and just, like I said, advocate for the businesses. And that's kind of a full circle for tourism in and of itself. So I think regarding the $15,000 that was cut, we want to keep that on the table as much as we can. We want to take this next year to prove how we can maybe earn that back, and then we can realign next year.
I'm excited about the opportunities and things we have to go forward, and adding the quarterly reports, is that okay with you?
Yes.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask about the quarterly reports. Who would be doing the reporting? Would it be a board member?
I think it would either be our president or a board member, whoever is the most available. Especially at the larger events like 16th Celebration, I think there'll be quite a few of us here to answer questions and provide the analytics and the data that comes in with all those. That's one of the biggest events in Perry, and we want to do a good job of promoting the good that's happening here. And so I think you'll continue to see that communication and those things being communicated to you all. So. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I can't speak for the whole council, but I would love for us to, as we're going into budgeting, to work with the chamber to see how we can come up with a contract that helps the chamber, but also gives us the information and the ammunition to go back to our constituents and say this was money well spent.
Yes.
Because that's the most important thing. I mean, we're responsible for what we spend money on, and if we don't have a clear vision of where that's going, we can't approve it. But we've got a year now to go get that figured out. I would love for us to be sitting here a year from now celebrating the fact that we got back to where we were.
Not to be Debbie Downer, but most chambers are not funded by government.
I think it's great that we can.
Motion.
Is it require a motion?
It would be Nate's recommendation, I guess. Could we?
Yeah, so I can make my recommendation clear if you want.
We have a question.
I just had a question, I wanted to ask Bryce.
Brad, do you mind coming up?
Okay.
Commissioner Sutton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say historically, if we didn't have the chamber, we wouldn't have the motel tax and we wouldn't have the commercial part.
You and I have been around a long time.
That's the.
But the other thing I wanted to correct is I don't think you're accurate on your statement, is I don't know a chamber that's not funded by the city, but you would know. That's why I was going to ask the question.
You might tell us who you are first. Sorry.
Oh, Brad Finley. Lived here 62 years, and I've been very quiet, so if you don't know me, that's probably the reason why. I'm just trying to be shy.
Thank you. Sorry.
But
I have a number of cities that fund, their chamber to some level. They normally have like we do, have a specific tax. This particular tax, the whole idea for the motel tax came from the chamber. And the language from it came from the chamber. They worked with us on it. And the whole purpose of that was to, do those things. So, and then with Carolyn Briggy, she was the economic development director for the city for a number of years and until her death. And so we actually contracted with the chamber at a much greater level. Initially, it was the Perry Development Coalition, which was a nonprofit corporation that we created back in the early 90s. But, you know, it was that group, and then we went to the chamber, and it was really coalition and the chamber together. But that is what brought us the commercial park. And I'm sure they also helped us with the Larry Ferguson's Road, which is 32nd Street, and there was a lot of that. After Carolyn died, the participation was less in economic development, but she worked very well. But I have a number of cities. Normally, they have a specific devoted tax to it. Meredith, do you have some communities that
Probably a handful.
a handful?
Handful
Yeah.
that do or don't?
That do.
That do.
Do have
Yeah.
some.
No, it's not atypical. It's not atypical. I wouldn't say it's for all the small communities is typical, because they don't have those extra dollars, and
Exactly.
they don't have specific dollars. But the partnership between the chamber and the city goes back decades, and has really wrought some really great things. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I was curious, and I belong to 9 of them, and I'm not quite a city attorney like you for all of them,
Yeah.
but I'm in a few of them, and all of them are funded, and then they all do the same things, and they bring in business and all these things, but if it's gone on that long, you know, you usually get some notice if you're gonna get cut. And this was all like a gut punch to us. And I've spent my life living in the city, promoting the city, and understand you guys have the same duty as we do, and that's to show our citizens and members a return on their investment. And a little heads up would be nice, but we gotta be able to talk. And we didn't realize that you weren't getting communicated with. And like I said, I've had a career overcoming objections, but you have to listen and show return. And it just seems like, you know, we hear you, and now we're gonna do something about it, and that's what Perry people do. So thanks for listening and giving an opportunity to show you what we know the chamber should be. And like I said, there's reasons I belong to 9 of them, because of benefit. But if people don't see it, just like you don't see it, it's there. Where are people gonna come when they come to town? Or they want to start a business, they're gonna come to the chamber, you know, so. We, like other organizations, they do get members, but also the ones I belong to, they have contracts. And so, thanks for the opportunity. We're not gonna disappoint you, okay? Now I'm probably gonna get shot by all the other board members. But we all have a vested interest in making this a great place. And I'll not keep you all night like I'm prone to do, but I would like to just pray to the court or to the council or whatever, let's all try to improve our culture. A lot of the things I've been listening to tonight has to deal with culture. Well, that's really what defines you. And I'll go ahead, because he did, well, I'll just try not to be funny and shut up.
Thank you, Brad.
It was about you, Bryce.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. Would you like to reword your recommendation, maybe?
Yeah, my recommendation was that we amend the contract with the chamber, keeping number 1, which is plan and promote and advertise and market special events such as the Cherokee Strip Celebration and Springfest Hops Car and Motorcycle Show. And then number 7, and this is as laid out in their previous contract, provide the city manager quarterly reports, and actually provide quarterly reports to council is the way we want that.
Yeah.
adjusted.
And that was item B, 1 and 7, and we agreed members signed on it too, right?
I would move we accept the contract with those amendments.
Second.
When you're ready.
Okay. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Item 23, new business. Seeing none, 24, adjourn.
So moved.
Bledsoe?
Here.
You want to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Here.
Brown? He just wants to hang out with us a little.
He's gonna get to do
Another
that.
or two.
All right.
I did say yours.
Do we have any other?
Yes. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting, Perryville Municipal Authority. Roll call, please. Or do you need time?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay.
We got 2 seconds. Okay, coffee.
Thank you.
Bledsoe?
Here.
Marshall?
Here.
Davis? Here. Goldar?
Here.
Rupp?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Wortham?
All right. We have a quorum. Item number 1, consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And Bledsoe?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
All right. Item number 4, consider approval of amendments to the Perry Purchasing Manual concerning amending section 1 concerning its applicability to the Perry Municipal Authority, amending section 1.4.a, increasing the maximum purchasing authorization for the city manager, amending section 2.4.b, making an exception to the 3-bid requirement for open market purchases, amending section 9, increasing the maximum purchasing authorization for purchasing officers, and making provisions consistent with the previous amendment, amending section 12.2, providing for silent auctions and disposition of surplus property by designation of the city council. So this is same as we discussed earlier. Or any question, we're just approving it in PMA.
I have a question. When we talked about the city manager and the city council, you know, one of the things we were told was Nate would be meeting them monthly. Who is the city manager still the overseer?
Trust manager.
Trust me.
But it's Nate as trust manager
Okay.
of the trust authority, yes.
Didn't realize I have that title.
Yes.
Put that on your
Oh,
list.
that's the bottom of the email.
Trust
One
me.
thing that came to my mind, after reading this, and I won't pull it back, but when you're talking about $15,000 per purchasing officer, and you've got 12 purchasing officers, you're talking about lots of money. So I just thought that needed to be voiced anyway.
No,
And they still have to stay within their budget.
Yeah.
They still have to stay within their budget.
Yeah, I do, and I think that's a good covering, but still, I just think that as a council, when we do that, if somebody shocks us with it, we need to know up front ourselves that we were considering that.
well, that we know there are consequences.
Yeah.
I would move we approve this.
Second.
Bledsoe?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
All right. Number 5, new business. Seeing none, item 6 is adjourned.
Second.
When you're ready?
Bledsoe?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Goldar?
Yes.
Rupp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Brown?
All right, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of Perry Facilities Authority, August 5th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Coffee?
Bledsoe.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
Davis. Present. Goldar.
Present.
Rupp.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Brown. Wortham.
All right, we have quorum. Item number 1, consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar.
Yes.
Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Wonder why it's double on name.
All right, item number 4, any new business? 5, adjourn.
Second.
When you're ready, roll call, please.
Bledsoe.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Goldar. Rupp.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.